What if the Confederates had won the Civil War? 10 scandalous and shocking alternate realities. The American Civil War shaped the United States as we know it, but what if the Confederacy had emerged victorious? This alternate history invites us to imagine a world profoundly different, rife with scandalous policies, shocking cultural shifts, and disturbing realities. Let's explore 10 intriguing scenarios of a Confederate victory. Number 1. A nation divided, the death of the United States. Had the Confederates won the Civil War, the United States would have ceased to exist as a united entity, forever splitting into two nations. The Confederate States of America, CSA, would have institutionalized states' rights and slavery, cementing a deep ideological divide with the Union. Historian John Keegan compared the possible scenario to Europe, stating, "A fractured United States would have resembled a continent of divided sovereignties, prone to endless conflict and instability." Trade and diplomacy between the CSA and USA would have likely mirrored Cold War hostilities, with militarized borders and competing alliances. Regional secession movements, like Texas or California independence, could have been emboldened by the precedent, creating a fragmented North America. Globally, the absence of a united America would have dramatically reduced Western influence. A divided United States would have struggled to shape world events, such as World War II or the Cold War, allowing European colonial powers or authoritarian regimes to dominate. Would the divided Americas have ever reconciled, or would North America have devolved into an ongoing battleground? Share your thoughts. Number 2. Institutionalized slavery, a Southern empire built on oppression. Slavery, the cornerstone of the Southern economy, would have persisted and likely expanded. Confederate leaders such as Jefferson Davis and Alexander H. Stephens envisioned an empire built on the backs of enslaved laborers. Stephens famously proclaimed in his Cornerstone speech of 1861 that the Confederacy was founded on the belief in the racial superiority of whites and the perpetual subjugation of African Americans. This ideology would have driven expansionist ambitions, with the CSA eyeing territories in Mexico, the Caribbean, and even Central America to establish new slave-holding states. Historian Shelby Foote suggested that a Confederate victory could have cemented slavery as a permanent institution, unchallenged for generations. Globally, this would have presented a moral paradox. While nations like Britain and France denounced slavery, their reliance on Southern cotton might have forced uneasy trade relationships. Could the CSA have sustained its economy as the global market turned toward industrialization and moral opposition to slavery? How do you think the world would have reacted? Share your thoughts in the comments. Number 3. The decline of democracy in the West. The Confederacy's victory might have served as a powerful argument against democracy. Monarchies and oligarchies could have pointed to the CSA's success to highlight the instability of Republican governance. The US would have lost its position as a beacon of freedom, weakening independence movements worldwide. Movements in India, Ireland, and Africa might have faced greater resistance, as the CSA exemplified a ruling elite suppressing democratic aspirations. By the 20th century, the CSA could have devolved into a dystopian regime, ruled by wealthy plantation owners, with little to no rights for poor whites and African Americans. The American dream of equality and self-governance might never have gained global traction. Number 4. A different World War I. The geopolitical order of the 20th century would have looked entirely different if the United States had remained divided. Without the industrial and economic unity of the North and South, the USA would likely have lacked the resources to intervene in World War I. The CSA, rooted in an isolationist and agrarian mindset, might have chosen neutrality or sided with nations like Germany, which had minimal objections to slavery. Historian James McPherson speculated that an absent or weakened America would have tilted the war in favor of a German victory. Without US involvement, the Treaty of Versailles might never have materialized, leaving Germany dominant in Europe. This altered balance of power could have delayed or prevented World War II, but it might also have entrenched authoritarian regimes across the continent. How would the absence of the United States in World War I have shaped the modern world? Number 5. The CSA and Nazi Germany, unlikely allies? the Confederate States' racial ideology bears unsettling parallels to that of Nazi Germany. Both regimes were built on principles of racial superiority and exclusion. In the mid-20th century, successors to Confederate leaders like Jefferson Davis could have found ideological allies in Adolf Hitler. A CSA aligned with Nazi Germany might have dramatically altered the trajectory of World War II. Shared interests in white supremacy and authoritarian governance could have united these regimes against the Allies. This hypothetical alliance would have made the war significantly harder for the Allies to win, potentially reshaping global borders and governance. Historian Richard Beringer suggested that the CSA and Nazi Germany together might have created a world where oppression was enshrined globally, rather than defeated. Number 6. The suppression of civil rights movements. The survival of the Confederacy would have suppressed racial equality movements indefinitely. Figures like Martin Luther King Jr. or Rosa Parks might never have emerged, as the CSA would have violently quashed any dissent. Jim Crow laws, already entrenched in southern states, might have evolved into something even more brutal, akin to apartheid in South Africa. Historian David Blight suggested, civil rights in the Confederacy would have been a pipe dream, suppressed by fear and violence. The CSA's survival would have delayed global civil rights progress, leaving millions in systemic oppression for generations. Number 7. A technological and industrial lag. The agrarian economy of the Confederacy, heavily reliant on slavery, would have lagged behind the industrialized world. Without Southern resources, the Northern states might also have struggled economically. Historian James McPherson speculated, the divided U.S. might never have become the technological leader of the 20th century. Both nations would have been vulnerable to European imperialism, potentially reducing their global influence. The space race, advancements in medicine, and other technological revolutions might never have occurred, fundamentally altering the trajectory of human progress. Number 8. The rise of Confederate pop culture. Confederate ideals would have dominated Southern culture, shaping literature, art, and media. Figures like William Faulkner, known for critiquing the South's history, might have glorified its survival instead. Movies and novels romanticizing plantation life and Confederate generals, akin to Gone with the Wind, might have become mainstream. Confederate symbols, including the flag, would have gained global recognition as emblems of rebellion and oppression. This cultural dominance would have cemented the Confederacy's ideology in the global consciousness, perpetuating myths about the glory of the Southern cause. Number 9. A fractured global economy. The Confederacy's reliance on cotton as its primary export would have deepened ties with Europe, especially Britain and France. However, the global economy's shift away from single-crop dependency in the late 19th century might have left the CSA vulnerable to economic downturns. The northern states, developing alternative industries, could have rivaled the CSA financially but with significant challenges. Rival currencies, trade wars, and economic instability would have characterized the continent. This fragmentation might have hindered North America's ability to compete with unified powers like Germany or Japan. Number 10. The permanent underdog, the USA in decline. A United States without its southern states would have been significantly weakened on the global stage. Economically and militarily divided, the USA might have struggled to maintain its influence in the Western Hemisphere, let alone globally. The CSA, on the other hand, might have faced constant internal strife, with oppressed populations, both enslaved African Americans and impoverished whites, challenging the ruling elite. By the 21st century, North America might have resembled Europe, with its patchwork of competing nations and frequent border disputes. The fractured United States might never have achieved the superpower status it holds today, fundamentally altering the trajectory of world history.